Hey guys, it's Chris at Highline Guitars, and you're watching another episode of From the Luthier's Workbench. If you like to build or repair guitars, I suggest you click that subscribe button down below, and you'll become part of a community of fellow luthiers. And together, we can take your skills to a whole new level. If you'd like to support my guitar building YouTube channel, visit eguitarplans.com and buy a plan. A link is in the description below. Now on with the video. In today's episode, I'm going to be covering part 2 of my CNC pickup winder project. In the last episode, I performed basically a proof of concept test. And what I was trying to do was to make sure that my idea for using G-code would actually work to control the two motors that I'm going to be using on this winder. One of the motors is a 12-volt DC motor that will spin the bobbin, and the other motor is a small NEMA 17 stepper motor that will control the traverse. So after I had done that test and was convinced that I think I'm on the right track, the next step was to start actually assembling the winder. However, I'm going to be relying on some prefabricated parts that I've ordered, and they have not arrived yet. And specifically, I'm waiting for my counter and my traversing mechanism. However, there are some parts that I need to fabricate myself, and one of those parts is the part you see here. This is a combination tensioner and wire guide. Now, what this device will do is it will apply tension to the wire and guide it as it is traversing back and forth. So this will be mounted to the traversing mechanism later on. And basically what this device is primarily responsible for, as I said, is to apply tension to the wire. And it's really important as you're winding a guitar pickup coil to apply tension to the wire. If you don't, you would end up with a mess, because as the bobbin is spinning, the wire would just go all over the place. So you have to put a little bit of tension on it, and that will help the wire wrap around the core tightly. And this can actually, there's a couple of considerations when you're applying tension. One is you want to have that tension to keep the wire seated in the guide as it's traversing. The other thing is you want to apply tension so that when the coil is finished wrapping around the bobbin, the coil is tight to the bobbin's core. If it's loose, the wire can vibrate. So when you play the guitar, the signal that's generated in the coil will travel out of the guitar through the cable to your amplifier, where it's converted into the audio signal that's pumped out by the speaker. So when those sound waves hit, they'll cause everything to vibrate. The floor, the walls, the ceiling, furniture, everything will vibrate that those sound waves hit. If they cause the wire in the coil to vibrate, remember that's where the signal is originating from. So if those wires vibrate against one another, you're going to get feedback. And feedback can be a real pain to try to control. Well, one of the ways that we control it is we try to wind the coil as tight to the core as we can. And that prevents that wire from vibrating. Now, one of the problems that we run into is that tension on the wire can also affect tone. And how it affects tone is the tension can dictate the length, the overall length of the wire that you're wrapping around the bobbin. And it can do this in a couple of ways. Number one, as you add tension to the wire while it's winding, you're actually stretching out the wire and making it a little bit thinner. However, this is really more theoretical than it is a real issue to be concerned with, because even though you are stretching out the wire, as it lays down after it's been wrapped around the core, it will return mostly to its original shape. So even though you have to consider the fact that it's stretching the wire, it's not as big of an issue as you might think. What is an issue is the length of the wire can be determined by the tension, because when you apply the tension to the wire, you're actually putting less wire onto the bobbin than you would if you had no tension at all. In other words, if you were going to put 5,000 turns of wire on this bobbin and you applied little or no tension, that length of wire is going to be longer than if you were going to put 5,000 turns of wire on the bobbin, but you applied a significant amount of tension, because it's going to make, it's going to require less wire. And that's a function of how tension works. Loose tension is going to just wrap loosely wound turns of wire, and it's going to be longer in length. Well, as you would imagine, that will affect the tone, because the resistance of the wire is determined by the length of the wire. So the longer the length of the wire, the higher the level of resistance. The shorter the length of wire, the lower the resistance. And that translates ultimately over to the level of inductance in the wire, which we can use to determine how the pickup is going to sound. A coil with low resistance is going to have lower inductance, which means the pickup is going to sound quieter and yet brighter. If the coil has a high level of resistance, it's going to have a higher inductance, which means it's going to sound louder and darker. So you can kind of see how the length of the wire is going to determine how the pickup is going to sound. And the length of the wire can be determined by two things: the number of turns that we put on the bobbin and the amount of tension that we apply to the wire as we're winding the coil. To calculate the number of turns of wire that I'm going to put onto a bobbin, I have to execute a fairly simple mathematical formula which takes into account the perimeter dimension of the bobbin's internal core, along with the desired level of resistance that I want to achieve, and the measured or known amount of resistance in the particular wire that I'm going to use. However, initially this formula doesn't take into account exactly what the tension is going to be. Instead, it just assumes that this is going to be a perfectly wound bobbin, which of course it's not. So what I have to do to factor in tension is I have to do a test. So what I'll do is I'll calculate the number of turns that I need to put on this bobbin in order to achieve the level of resistance that I want. So let's say I wanted this bobbin to yield 5,000 ohms of resistance, and my calculations were to tell me I would need to put 4,800 turns of wire onto this coil in order to achieve that level of resistance. In order to figure out how tension is going to affect that, what I would do is I would wind this bobbin with 4,800 turns of wire. Then I would test the actual level of resistance and compare that to my target level of resistance that I determined in the beginning, which was 5,000 ohms of resistance. Chances are those two aren't going to match up. So what I would have to do is I would have to divide my initial target resistance with the final measured resistance. And that number that I would come up with is the number that I would incorporate into my formula to account for tension. This works really well as long as I always keep the tension the same. If I change the tension, I have to change the formula. The tensioner I'll be using on this winder is a pretty simple yet effective tensioning device. And it consists of two felt pads which are mounted to this structure and includes a screw with a spring on it. And to use it, I simply pull the two felt pads apart, and then I can lay the wire in between the felt pads, and when I release the screw, the spring pulls the two pads together, and that creates the tension. The wire then runs from the tensioner up over, this is a nylon wire guide. There's a groove carved in the center of it, and from there it heads to the bobbin, which would be out here. So it's basically like this, with the wire going into the tensioner. And as the bobbin spins, it pulls the wire through the tensioner. So the wire is always kept tight to the core. And this type of tensioner actually works really well, specifically for perfectly round bobbins, like this sewing thread. Because as the wire is wound onto the bobbin, a round bobbin's shape stays consistent, so the tension stays consistent. However, pickup bobbins, and it doesn't matter whether they're humbucker, single coil, P90, whatever, they're not round, they're oblong. As a result, the tension varies during the winding process. So as the bobbin is spinning, in this position, for example, there's going to be more tension at the top edges than there is at the side, obviously. And then as it turns, the tension increases at this end, and there's less tension in the center. So as the bobbin is winding, the tension is constantly bouncing up and down through the entire process. Now, there are tensioners that they're actually pre-made tensioners that you can purchase, which will even out the level of tension. They're designed to work that way. And I could actually buy one for this winder that would work really nicely. The problem is they're expensive. And in truth, I don't feel there is a significant benefit to using one of those type of tensioners. I think they work best if you're winding huge number of pickups and you're trying to control or monitor the amount of wire you're using. You can actually do that with those. But as far as determining how that tension from one of those devices affects the outcome of the finished coil, you still have to do that test to determine the difference between your target resistance and the actual measured resistance. Another way that I can measure the amount of tension that's applied by this simple device is to use a force sensor wired into some circuitry with a display screen that would give me feedback in terms of grams or ounces, pounds, kilograms, whatever, with regard to how much tension this or how much force this device is placing on the wire. And then I could take that measurement and convert it into a number which I could use in my formula to get an accurate, optimized turn count. However, since the bobbins I'm winding are oblong in shape, and because that causes the tension to vary during the course of winding, I don't really think it's going to be that accurate. What I would have to do is I would have to measure the tension at different positions of the bobbin as it's winding, which I'm not sure if that's even possible to do. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but then I would have to average that to get the number I need to modify my formula. So I think for now, I'm just going to stick with this simple tensioner, and then I'll carry out a test with the bobbins to determine the difference between target resistance and measured resistance, and use that as a way to modify my turn count formula. So I think that should work fairly well. All right, guys, well, that's where things stand now with this pickup winder build, and I'm hoping that in the next day or two, the counter will get here along with the traverse mechanism. We'll see. I know the counter is probably going to be delivered today or tomorrow, so once I have that, I can hook it up to my test rig and make sure it works the way that I'm expecting it to. And I'm pretty confident it will, because I know there are other guys who've built pickup winders using the exact same counter and the same photo optical switch. So I'm not really too concerned with that. But before I start to build the winder, I really need to make sure in my mind that everything is working the way I want it to, because I don't want to waste any time. At any rate, that's it for this episode. If you've got any comments or questions, put them down below. If you don't subscribe, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to show support for this channel and the work I do for it, head over to eguitarplans.com and purchase a plan. And until the next episode, take care, and I'll see you soon.